Small business owners, entrepreneurs, medium startups, and VCs, this one's for you. Welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line, balancing evolution with execution, hosted by Elevate Talent Solutions founder and CEO, Ron Miller. Through Ron's own hard-won wisdom, along with an array of luminaries across the entrepreneurial ecosystem, you'll glean priceless wisdom that will help you see past the day-to-day grind and into the future where you can check off today's to-do list and achieve innovation and elevation to ensure your business is future-proofed. Fulfilling and profitable, it's time for Beyond the Bottom Line, balancing evolution with execution. Take it away, Ron.
Hey, welcome back again to another episode of Beyond the Bottom Line, the show where we try and balance execution with evolution. And for those of you that have been listening to the show for a little while now, you know that we continue to try and inspire small business owners with information coming from my expertise and my experiences, as well as a lot of other thought leaders out there in the industries to bring you information that's valuable and a different way to look at your business and help you grow and avoid those pitfalls. As everybody kind of experiences starting out, whether, you're starting out in a staffing business, you're starting out in some type of service industry or hospitality, we want this information to be pertinent and important. And we also like to here at Elevate Talent Solutions really kind of connect the dots in a different way. And today, I'm really excited to bring you somebody that's very special in my life and has been very important to me for a very long time. And my guest today has had a profound impact, not only of how I grew as a leader and how I looked at business. But one of the reasons why today that I actually started my own company and really kind of took that leap because I understood fully what it meant to commit to something and see it through and how that you can use your experience to help others. So before I introduce Laura officially, I want to kind of point out in the aspect of new businesses starting, facts are these. 35% of businesses in America right now, small businesses, are women owned. It's a small percentage, but that small percentage includes over 10 million people. It makes up over $13.9 trillion in billed revenue. And of that 35% of women that actually own and start businesses in the United States, 55% of those are Gen X, identified as Gen X or older. So women have a very profound impact on business. And something that I've always seen and I've always been a staunch supporter of is women's expanded roles into executive leadership. And I don't still think that we're at that apex point yet today of enough of that occurring. So I am super excited to bring you a glass ceiling breaker of my old friend, mentor, and someone I still want to be when I grow up, but I welcome Laura Cole to the show.
Thank you so much, Ron. That means so much to me. I mean, I have really enjoyed when I worked with you and now being your friend. It's an honor. And I'm very proud of you for starting your own business and doing the stuff that you're doing to live your dream. So it's great. The world needs us.
Don't hold back. You know that I'm a pain in the ass. So I'm original Peter. You can call it out, Cole. But I am so excited to have you on here today. Really kind of speak on. I know I asked you to kind of almost do two topics because your story is always stuck about where you came from, how you got there. We share so many similarities because we both grew from the desk. Nothing was handed to us in the industry we chose to work in service. So we've grown through this, at two different apex points. But your growth path, I know you've been in the industry for over 25 years. You've had 10 years in the retail industry. You took off when we were a mom for 9 of those. You're still a mom today, obviously. You just didn't why not? I was saying,
Important job I ever had.
well, let me tell you, I agree. Like being a parent, man, I missed so much early on, but sometimes, now mine's 19, but I used to say to her, listen, in New Jersey, 18 is still the age for you to drop you off the firehouse without little questions asked. But yeah, you made that transition that a lot of other individuals, especially women, never make back. And coming back into that industry, you've grown so many businesses, inspired so many others with what you've kind of built. So I really want to kick it over to you, let you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your story and how you got here.
Hey, absolutely. I mean, it all started on a rainy Tuesday. So it's probably a snowy Tuesday because I think
Right.
it was in February of 2000. At the time, I was a stay-at-home mom. I had been home for 9 years, and I had really, really enjoyed staying home with my children, and I decided to do a part-time for a friend. She worked for Kraft, and she asked me to come in and do pay the at a temporary staffing agency. And I was like, okay. So I set up an appointment and went over there. And, it was a typical staffing environment. It's like the phones are ringing, it's craziness in there. And the lady is just running around and the normal staffing. And, I don't know why, but I sat there for about 30 minutes and she was late for my appointment. And I finally just, you know what? I'm gonna ask her if she wants some help. And I have no idea why I did that because, like, I had never worked in an office. I had no idea what I was doing. And I asked her, I said, listen, I can take the application home. I'll fill it out tonight. I'll bring it back tomorrow. But would you like me to help you answer your phones for a little while? Because you look so busy. And she was like, would you? I was like, sure. So I went behind the desk. I listened to her answer one, and then I just took from there. And within an hour, I'm talking to candidates. They're faxing me their resume because, of course, back then we didn't have email. It was like on that rolled paper. You remember this?
Oh, yeah, you put it in your blue book.
And so it was just really like, it was really interesting to me. I talked to a candidate who was looking for something, and then a customer called in, and I went over to the lady and I said, hey, there's a customer on the line that you need to talk to. He's looking for this kind of person. And I have a candidate. She'd be perfect for it. Here's her resume. And she was like, okay, stop right there. You are meant to be in this business. And I was like, no, I'm not. At the time, I wasn't sure, like, oh, I can't leave babies. But I told her I would do it for a little while, and before you know it, I was, like, working full time and trying to take over the world, but it was like, I really, really enjoyed, not just helping the candidate, but also helping the customers, and so to me, it wasn't about selling anybody on anything. As a matter of fact, if somebody had told me at the time that I was a salesperson, I would have fought it tooth and nail, right? Because it's like, I didn't wanna be known as a salesperson. Now I wear you know? But at the time, I started in the recruiter desk and then I just started taking on anything and everything that they would teach me. If they would be willing to teach me something, I would go and do it. I was a young person that had a lot of drive and skills, right?
I find that one hard to believe. So, what?
I'll tell you, I was pretty green. I remember talking to one of my former leaders and I asked her, like, hey, what could I do? I want to go on this sales call with you. And she's like, okay, I'll let you go. And I was like, okay, what can I do? How can I help? And she's like, okay, I just need you to do one. I was like, what's that? She said, shut up.
Yeah, I didn't believe that.
I was like, do. And it was but I just got in there and started. There were lots of things I didn't know how to do, and I was kind of afraid of it, but I just did it anyway. And I think that, that's to me probably one of the things I'm more proud about is, starting from nowhere and then just creating it as I've gone. And, I've been really lucky. I've worked for really fabulous people. I've had very few bosses that I wouldn't want to work for again. And I think is a primary driver, right? I think if you're a person who really wants to do great things in the world, then you need to surround yourself with other people who are doing great things in the world. And then you're learning from those people. And, you look at the word tracks, you look at how they do it, and then you model that behavior of things that you see working. And then hopefully it works for you. And if it doesn't, then you find something else. Yeah. Yeah. Over the years, I will tell you this. I mean, I started a new job about 2 years ago, which I absolutely love. And when I first started it, everybody has that imposter syndrome maybe at different times in their life, right? You start to think like, gosh, did I just get lucky or am I good at this? You know? And I got lucky a lot. So, I mean, I think that it really is, it still creeps in there after 25 years. You still kind of go like, hey, do I know what I'm doing?
I think it's staffing. It's always a good balance of luck, timing, and skill that really kind
Yes.
of leads to that success. And that goes for a lot of things in any business. I mean, you have to have the drive and the passion if you want to get something off the ground. If you're joining an organization and you're trying to rebuild or build something and build this to the next level, you have to have that drive and that passion, that experience. But some of it is luck and time. You
Yeah.
walk in, you don't know what you're inheriting. And something you said there really kind of connects that with some other topics we talked about. And not you and I together. I know we have
Yeah.
over the course of years, but in prior episode, we were talking to Naomi about the importance of identifying a value prop early in an organization, who you really are, what you really stand for, and using those guiding principles as you develop yourself and your business, but also as you start to develop your team and your future leaders. And you've been fortunate where
Yep.
you've worked for a lot of people that have been influential and very few that you would not go back and work for. But that's not the journey that a lot of folks kind of
Mm.
partake on. And I also think
Yeah.
it's a key part of where small businesses and honestly, organizations of all sides really go wrong is
Yes.
not putting the right people in the right seat or putting the wrong people in the right seat for the wrong reason.
Absolutely.
I think that
Yeah.
all
This
ties
is a
in.
lesson. I almost feel like as humans, I think we're always, even once you learn that lesson that it's all about people, it's all about hiring good people. Sometimes you still have to learn it again and again and again, right? Because no one hits a home run every time they swing. No one,
Yeah.
right? And I'm no exception. I'm not perfect. I don't hit a home run every single time I swing. But what I will say is, probably about 15, 20 years ago, God, it really is a long time ago now. I sat down with Lisa Francis, and Lisa Francis was the first woman to lead a $1 billion staffing company. And she was the president of the ASA and just a really powerful woman leader. And, at the time I had just taken over a new unit that was losing money and it was just taking a long time with the downturn to turn it around. And so she sat down with me and, we went through every single P&L. I mean, that's the kind of leader that she is. Literally just look at it and ask you to come up with your plan. And I asked her for some advice. And the one thing that she said is something that I've taken with me all these years. And I know you've heard me say this before, that it's all about the people that you're hiring. If you don't surround yourself with amazing people that carry you over the finish line, you're not going to get over the finish line, right?
Yeah.
You can't be carrying people over the finish line. You need to get your results through your people.
Yeah.
When you're at a junior level in the industry, you're getting your results from your work. When you are at a higher level, you are getting your results through other people. So it's a very, very different skill set and focus and the way that you look at the world. But I learned some things from that experience in particular because, once I got my team right, my gosh, I mean, then we were going to Winter Circle like every year and,
Yeah.
and everything was really great. But I honestly wonder sometimes, like, what would my journey look like if I hadn't had that experience with Lisa? I don't know. I mean, I think we all have those impactful times with mentors
Yeah.
during, our growth journey. And, what I need from a development standpoint is so different now than what it was 20 years ago. At 20 years ago, I really needed that message, right?
Yeah.
But I think about it all the time. I do really think about some of those lessons that I learned at that time. The stuff that I'm doing today with my current company is all rooted in the lessons I learned.
Yeah. Well, and I've heard you say that many times, right? And that's something that you said to me over the years. It's also resonated with me about team building is surround yourself with the right people. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. All need
Yeah.
to be something different to the table. And I've watched you over the years do the same thing with people on my team where you sit down and embrace that and explain things in their way. And I think that's something for me that inertly is in you as a human. I think that's just part of your makeup to do that. And we're going to get into the whole servant leader thing because that was a whole new thing that I don't want to say it was new, but it was something that you really kind of slapped me upside the head with when you and I finally came together at a place of this is what you've been doing. This is how we're going to do it. But I think too, and call out, Lisa Francis, I think we all learned so much from her and how she ran the organization we were all part of. There were so many valuable lessons through that time. I mean, we went through downturns, we went through the Great Recession, and I think we wound up having less layoffs than most other organizations at the time. She
Absolutely.
was,
Well, we were growing.
yeah,
Yeah, we were growing. And I think also on top of that, I think that there was a level of compassion in the culture that was
yeah,
just really, truly special. We did furloughs. We all like just banded together. We all worked fewer hours. And I think that when you work, in that type of environment with people who care about
yeah,
you as a human, you're not just a number. You're not just on the balance sheet, right? You're not
yeah,
just a human resource.
yeah.
Um, it makes such a difference. And, now, I mean, when I went to Staffmark, it was a smaller company and it was a medium sized company, probably, five, 600,000, don't know. It's been a long time now, but, or 500 million probably. But I mean, now I'm working for a much smaller company and have finally, I think I found my sweet being in a smaller company, you get to create culture. You get to create how things are done. You're not just inheriting someone else's playbook and executing, right?
Yeah.
You're built. And
Yeah.
I see you doing that now with your business. So it's fun to watch. And, I kind of wonder, like for you, that it probably is so much more satisfying. Yes, you get a sense of completion that you didn't.
Oh, 100,000%. In my career in staffing, I was always number one. I never lost the sense of helping the person across the desk. I come from a blue collar, and staffing for me at that time was it because I watched my dad, who was a UAW worker, and building trucks he was a UAW worker for almost 50 years. And that man worked overnight shifts in a manual labor job. He provided very well for us, but his sense of work ethic rubbed off on me and how I approach things. Number one. I think number two is his experience through some of the shutdowns and strikes that I watched him go through. And he is, those guys, their only path forward at the time was going in, to the temporary staff agency. And I used to sit and watch like the phone calls. Like he didn't know if he had work the next week and where he would be or who he would be with, but pick up the phone, put on his pants, put on his work boots, he would go. He would just go, and the help that was provided there when I started doing this, because this was never a career path for me. I mean, that's another whole story that people don't know how I got here,
We all
but
fall into staffing. There's no
yeah,
one that says when they're 7 years old, man, I
no.
want to be in.
Yeah, and then we're acting like kids don't grow up to be in staffing, right? Don't do it. That's whatever you do. Anything but this. Oh my goodness.
I didn't choose it the first time. It chose me. But I would say a number of years ago, it chose me. I know that left it for like 10 minutes and I hated it. I was really addicted to the highs and lows of this industry. Like when it's really wonderful, it's amazing. And when it's really bad,
It's pretty bad. Yeah. There is no slow climb on the hill. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, and you got to try and find that wave middle, and it,
well,
yeah,
it's interesting you talking about your dad being, a UAW person, and I wonder like the personality type that you have versus your dad. If you are a person who could go in anywhere and find a way to fit. And it sounds like your dad could have maybe been that way too, because he was going to different work sites. Um, Kind of interesting. I couldn't see my dad doing staffing. He would just,
yeah,
here's a military.
yeah,
That's what he is.
yeah.
Right. No shades of
Oh,
gray. And
oh,
this is all about the shades of gray.
oh. My dad, he just liked working with his hands. He loved building trucks. He loved working with the people that he was with. Like he didn't ever view it as work. Like he went it was going to like hang out with his friends for the day, getting paid for it. He just had a very different view. And like those guys, they all like, they go to breakfast. They still go to breakfast. Like at least once a week, all these guys that retired, like all go to breakfast together and talk about building trucks and like the stupid things they would do. And it's, it's almost like Laverne and Shirley as only in like the male version. Is the way I like envisioned it in my head, as I read there. But kind of watching him go through that and kind of getting the staff, for me, I was always passionate about the candidate of this is somebody's brother, sister, son, daughter, husband, wife, that they're not here just to check off a box. I know that, sometimes you can get into a mindset of everyone's just coming here to check off a box and they're going to move on. But I think about the culture that you establish that allows that to happen. And it's something that proactive recruiting can also help fight against, number one. But if you get out of that mindset and understand the only difference for you and that person on the other side of the desk is the desk that in the side you're sitting on, it gives you a different perspective. And that's something as I've grown in my career and used, especially some of the lessons you taught me over the course of time as I look to kind of help businesses. I look at the same concept of you're investing your life savings, you're investing your time, you're making the sacrifices. If I can help you avoid pitfalls and mistakes or give you solutions you're not thinking of, and access to experience and information and insights that you couldn't maybe afford right now on your own for somebody, right? Everyone should hire a Laura Cole. But if I'm starting out, I can't afford a Laura Cole. What if I made you a partner? But
Yeah.
man, your experience and what you bring, especially from like a team building concept of how do you build a successful team, one that stands time and performs, going right back to what you said, surrounding yourself with great people. You have a formula for this stuff. You have a history of it. It's one that I will honestly say, and I don't know if I ever told you this, but interesting fact. I remember meeting you at a Winter Circle event many, many years. And I also remember twice asking, once Lisa Francis and once your old SVP, to bring me into any opportunity out west, because you were in California at the time, in order to work with you, because I could see what you were doing and you were blowing everybody out of the water in a market in California that shouldn't have been grown that it was or producing the results that it was. Twice I asked if I could be considered for a transfer. But now I just had to become friends with you. And then I had to like call
And
and
then
bother
to
you.
be near you.
And then you moved out east and pulled me out of where I was and said, come back. And the rest is history.
Yeah, it's funny. I think team development or putting together a team, it's so fresh in my head right now because I've just been doing this for the last almost 2 years with my company. It's funny when you say, is there a formula for it? It's not like I have this SOP thing like, okay, hey, this is what I'm going to do. It's definitely not like that. I think it's like, it's intuitive and it's figuring out, finding the people who are really, really driven and committed, flexible, right? And that have a voice. They're able to, they're able to say when something isn't working. They're able to admit it, right? Finding people who are humble and fun and positive. Because there's all kinds of things that every single day are going to come our way that are going to turn us to the negative, right? So if you have this compass where you're always getting back up on the horse, and I'm not trying to get you to go on the horse, I'm more likely to be able to stay focused too. And then I think it's just, looking at, sitting down and listening to them about how they want to do it. It isn't, just like you said, I mean, if I'm the smartest person in the room, we're all in trouble. It's like, I don't have to be the smartest person in the room, luckily. And if you're hiring people who are better than you and who are really driven, and then you're listening to them and supporting, and then sometimes the best support you can give is to get their way, right? and, just being available, not hovering, not being a helicopter mom,
Yeah.
you know, but, I find that honestly, you train them and you trust them. You get in there, you let them do what they do best. You're honest with them. Like if they're cutting it, you're honest with them, but you deliver that honesty with compassion. Because I mean, as they say, and I learned this from my last, it's like if you're, um, I think the saying is that if honesty without compassion is brutality or whatever, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
um, and I really believe, you owe honesty, you owe the feed to people. But, if you want to keep people, you have to give them that compassion and let them be the human that they are, meet them where they live, and don't expect cookie cutter corporate drones. I think today, when we talk about women leaders or we talk about leaders in general, there's a, there is a, I don't know what you would call it, probably a standard.
I absolutely would call it a standard. I think that
Yeah,
women in anything are held to a very different judged standard of you
yeah,
have to be perfect and flawless in every step,
totally.
which
Demure and cutesy or whatever they call
very, very cute you
it.
are. Yes. You have to find this balance of being powerful, but not.
Mhm.
And I don't
Well,
understand it
yeah,
to this day, but
it's
I'm
it's
an
the velvet
aberration.
hammer. It's
Yeah.
the velvet
Oh,
it
the rebel test.
yeah. A man can walk in with hard, metal and just if a woman does that, it's maybe judged a little bit differently. I mean, I've been really lucky because I have worked for some really, really wonderful woman leaders. And they really have it figured out about how to deliver that message. And, I mean, Stacey Lane, I mean, I think that she could say almost anything and get away with it. you know, most women, right? Like I think she's just figured that. But, you know, I just think that watching, men leaders and women leaders and then taking the best things that you can from either one is the best. And then just coming to the world and you know, choosing like who you surround yourself with below you is just as
Yeah.
important as who you surround yourself with above you, right?
Yeah.
I have been really good at choosing bosses, for the most part. One, maybe two, here or there haven't been so great, but for the most part, honestly, I'm really happy with, most of the time I've been reporting to a woman. I think my entire career, my last boss was a man, Ryan Festerling with UPS, fantastic leader. Really learned a lot from him. And my current boss is a man, Stephen Olds. He's the owner of Exogistics. He came from the military, so he's a veteran. My dad was a veteran, so it's coming home. Mm, And it's a supply chain company. And then, of course, he also formed a staffing company as part of it. And so to be able to work in supply chain, which I have so much experience in supply chain staffing, to come over and work in a supply chain company that has a staffing arm, it's just perfect. It's like coming home, right?
Yeah.
So I've been really blessed. And, I think that when I met Steven, looked, a sign in his office and he had these compassionate leadership principles and he's a military guy. You're kind of expecting like this Marine to come out like, drill sergeant. No, like he is such a great, compassionate servant leader, but I think that, he definitely values their perspectives and women perspectives. He definitely supports women leaders in such a great way. It's an honor to work for him.
Yeah. It really is incredible, how your whole story and that arc kind of really happens. The impact that you've had in a lot of different businesses. I can tell you for a fact, there's a lot of people that used to work with me on my team, worked with you on your team, that are still with organizations that neither of us are no longer with.
Yeah.
But you know what? Your leadership examples and your lesson, they still live on, even though you're not there. And it was what you really kind of taught us is developing a team, surrounding yourself with good people that mean well, work together, and can learn from one another. That true servant leadership. And I think it's a lesson that someone can learn very early on as they
Yeah.
open their own business, no matter the field that they're in. Be compassionate one to yourself, right? Your
Yes.
day is not going to go perfect. Not everything is going to go to plan. You got to prepare
Yes.
and you got to roll with it and come out the other side. But remember that lesson is you start to expand it higher. And I think you always see that turning point when they get to like 25, 30 employees and that distance widens. You
Yes.
start to see if you haven't built your value prop, you don't know what your culture is exactly or your vision, and it's not aligned. And then this hiring process gets out of whack, your leadership gets out of whack, and now you're the president of a churn engine.
Yes. Right. No, I think you just hit the nail on the head because I literally just had this talk with my team last week talking about clarity of leadership. The most important thing we do as leaders is point to the pen, right? It's like these are the three things that must happen this quarter. And you keep talking them because whatever you talk about is what's going, both good or bad. Right. So, you know, I luckily run the entrepreneurial operating system. So it's the book Traction is what it is. And man, it's the best. I highly recommend anybody to look into it if they're interested in giving structure to their leadership and their strategy and like figuring out you and everybody around you. But I'll tell you, I mean, that's the biggest thing. Every quarter I sit down and out what's the most important thing I want to accomplish. I set my rules, as they say in entrepreneurial operating system, and then I'm relentless in accomplishing them because and I don't stop talking about them. We talk about them on our meetings every single week, and we talk about the exact same things. And I don't pick too many because if you pick too many, you can't do it.
Yeah.
I would definitely say that I'm really proud of everywhere I've been. I think that I've hopefully left an impact that survived after I left. At the same time, if you're a good leader, it won't fall apart when you leave. It
Yeah.
won't. So that's a good thing. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And I think you've touched on something though just a minute ago about self-compassion, and I love that you're thinking this way. And I know you and I had discussions about this foo-foo stuff before. You know, I would say that that's an area as a person I needed to grow. Like probably 10 to 20 years ago, I was really hard on myself and maybe even years ago. But I've gotten so much better with being kind to myself and really working on forgiveness of myself and other people. Like if there's, you know, something that happens, I'm not carrying with me. I think that that's a really strong lesson for any of us leaders, employees, moms, dads. The most important thing you can do for yourself is to realize that it's okay. If you did your absolute best and you know that you did your best, and the best you got may be different tomorrow than it was today, but that was the best you had today and you know you gave it. Okay, it's fine. And then you just move on and you get on the horse and you keep on going.
Yeah. That's all you can do. Tomorrow's a brand new day with new possibilities. You don't know what's going to happen around the corner. We can get hit by an asteroid or we can win the Powerball. There's a thin line in between them.
Absolutely. Yeah, Powerball would be nice.
Look at
I
that.
play to win, and I'm not doing that. So I'm not giving my money to the state.
I play when it gets to 400 million and I'm not greedy. I always buy that ticket at 400 million. I'm like, I just need, I'm not greedy. I don't need the 400. I just need,
See, then you'd be better off when it's low because there's fewer people playing, so your odds of getting something are better. I'm into
yeah.
statistics. What can I say? I'm a nerd.
No. Oh, well, Laura, listen, I just really appreciate you coming on and sharing your background experience. There's so many lessons to learn from somebody like you that has grown through so many different and come out that other side, not just better as a leader, better as a person. And you do leave a mark where you are. And businesses and business leaders of any size really can learn a lot from your experience and your background, the journey that you have to get there. I think that as individuals come in, and for those of you that listen to the show or have heard me speak, I talk about the power of community. I've always done about the power of community and recruiting, but what I've discovered in my new journey is the power of community as an individual and making those connections and learning things and having somebody as a strong mentor. You might not call them an official mentor. They may not get paid as a mentor,
Sure.
but they are a mentor and
Yeah.
they can help guide you. And who is your guide to keep you on that path as you build business and you build yourself? Because then you can build the people that continue to build the business for
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's interesting. My children have been self made individuals. I have guided them, but they have absolutely done everything that has made them successful. Right. And, I kind of look at it that way for myself. It's my job to grow me, and it's my job to surround myself with people who help me grow me and above or below or beside or any of that. And you've been an incredibly important part of my journey too. So I really, yes,
you.
appreciate you.
Exploded cornucopia and all.
Appreciate the exploding corn.
Right, we may share that little snippet at Silent Point. Maybe if you hit the follow and like button so you don't miss another episode of the show, maybe we'll share an exploded cornucopia video with you. But Laura, so you also, when we were talking earlier, as we kind of close this out, one, I want to make sure we're going to drop in the links, all your information to get in contact with you, how to find you on LinkedIn, how to get in contact with Logistics, what you're about. But you were talking a little bit about a free giveaway for some good mailbag questions. So if you want to kind of close us out there.
Absolutely. I work for Exogistics, which is a supply chain company we staff it, we store it, we move it, right? We do all of those things. And so anybody who mentions this podcast, or maybe if Ron likes your question this week, then please feel free to reach out. I would love to give you a discount on your first direct hire with us of $500, or if you choose to move an FTL freight load with us, we'll give you $500 for that too, just for listening. But yeah, we really appreciate the business plug.
Oh, absolutely. I'm here to support everybody.
It's
But
important to you to use a veteran owned agency or a veteran owned business. Please look us up, Exogistics, and I'll be sharing my information.
awesome. Well, Laura, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate it. I hope to have you back. There's so many other topics I want to touch on with you,
Oh,
especially when we get into some of this business building and sales, especially like how do you build a sales structure? Because listen, folks, just a sneak preview where I'm going with this. Like, this is a woman that I literally saw one time have COVID before COVID was a thing. Also gave a lot of us COVID before COVID was a thing. No feelings on that one, but literally couldn't even move to come to a national sales presentation, which we walked out of the meeting looking at each other going, oh, we lost it. And calling Laura, who literally couldn't hardly speak. And she's like, how did it go? We're like, if you can stop coughing for a second and breathe, we tell you that we don't have a shot in hell at this. And she's like, hold on. Someone hold my NyQuil. And literally got on the phone and like 3 hours later is like, all right, we got the deal. And I'm like, are you dying? Like, we're really trying to figure out where in the hell in North Carolina you were, because you sounded like that and like close a national deal from like your COVID bed.
that's great. Well, you guys set me up very well, because I would not have had that opportunity if it wasn't for everything that you guys did.
Oh, we didn't have to radio. There was nothing you could do. Oh, I mean, you were like Polly Boy in that meeting. We think that declared just wow. We're like, hey, do you like grapes? And they're like, we're all allergic to grapes. And I'm like, this is not good. Oh, we brought you a truckload of grapes.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. And now it's actually really cool to be doing some business together again and winning together.
So we will drop all of Laura's link into the chat area. And make sure, again, you hit that like and follow button. Want to make sure you connect with Laura and you don't miss another episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. Do you have questions for Ron or today's guest about this episode? Reach out and your question might be featured on next week's mailbag. You can learn more about Ron and Elevate Talent Solutions at elevate-talent-solutions.com or on LinkedIn. This podcast was edited and produced in partnership with Adrienne Rushart, principal of boutique marketing firm ACR Ventures. Check her out at acrventures.com for all your small business marketing needs. Be sure to hit that follow button and send us love letters and episode ideas to Ron Miller at elevatetalentsolutions.net. Tune in next week, and thanks for listening.